Hello guys, the NBA season is finally back and I'm going to be going over this Thursday 2-game NBA slate. So starting off, there's only the Jazz and the Pelicans and then the Clippers and the Lakers. We pretty much know the statuses of everyone on this slate. Patrick Beverley's a maybe, so he's probably the biggest question mark. But Zion is leaning towards playing now. He's practicing 80. It seems like he'll be okay, but we never know with him. So he's going to be a wait and see. But going over it with all the news that we have now as of Tuesday night, we're going to go just with each game here. We'll go with the first game on the slate, breaking it down like that. So I think Utah and New Orleans, this game's going to be very fast paced. Obviously, Utah is getting a huge pace up spot because they play relatively slow, and then New Orleans likes to really push the pace out there. So it's going to be a spot where I want to target more of the Jazz players as opposed to the Pelicans players. So looking at the prices now, the Pelicans, they're priced pretty well, I would say, and the Jazz are actually priced too low in my opinion. So I feel like they should have priced it the other way around because that way it would have decreased the ownership, but or for the Jazz players. But with what we got today here for the slate, I would say that Drew Holiday, Brandon Ingram, they're not going to be core plays even on a 2-game slate. Obviously, they have the talent, they have the upside, but with Zion looking like he's going to play, that's going to cut into the usages of Drew Holiday and Brandon Ingram, where at over 8K for both of them, they're just not going to be optimal plays, in my opinion. And so, with this being an important 8-game set for the Pelicans, where they're trying to make the playoffs, I would say that they're going to try to push their guys a little bit, as opposed to like some of the other teams who are pretty much safe, like the Lakers. So, with Holiday Ingram, you can play them, but I would say that you probably want to play a few lineups until you do get into them. Zion, particularly him, I think he's okay. 7,500 is I would say a fair price, but with him being his first game back, I should say like because he hasn't had as much time practicing, maybe his playing time is capped at like 30 or something because they're still trying to make the playoffs, but also they're trying to be healthy as they do make this playoff push. Lonzo Ball 7,400. He's in play as well because he's just a point guard that can do a little bit of everything. So I think he's also just not a core play, but he's there. And then on the Utah side, I do like Rudy Gobert a lot. I think he's going to be my favorite play. Probably on, I don't want to say on this slate, but definitely in this game because he's a guy that just gets like double doubles every game. If you just look at his stats, he's averages 15 and 13, and then we know that he's a tremendous defender, so he's always going to be able to get you the blocks, and then there's going to be steals. And when you look at the pace, the point total, this is going to be a very high scoring game, and that just means more shots, more rebounding opportunities, and that's going to play very well into Rudy Gobert's hands. So his price has never been this cheap, and this is one of the best matchups for fantasy purposes. So I would say Gobert, this is a spot where he can easily 6x and definitely has the threat to 7x his price tag here. So Rudy Gobert, he's going to be one of my favorite plays on this slate. Donovan Mitchell, I really like as well, but I would just go with Gobert over Mitchell if you're choosing between them. But he's 7K, and he's also going to be getting a very good matchup because of, once again, the pace, and we know he's just going to be the go-to scorer here. Bojan Bogdanovic is now out for the season with a wrist injury, so there's going to be a whole lot of shots up, or a lot of shots that have opened up. If you just look at Bojan, he averages 20 points a game, and he takes a whole lot of threes. So you're taking away double-digit shot attempts, a lot of threes out of the team. So those shots and that usage has to go somewhere, and it's not going to all go to Mitchell, obviously, but they do stagger their lineup, their rotation. So you're going to probably see other guys, like I'll get to Jordan Clarkson, who I really like as a tournament option later. But Mitchell, he's 7K. He's probably going to have to facilitate too. Just the way that how he plays, they stagger Mitchell and Mike Conley. So we know Mitchell's going to be able to ball handle. And he's not the best shooter, but he's going to get a whole lot of shots. And he's also a good defender, so he'll get steals. And he's a high-flying shooting guard. so he'll get rebounds as well. So he's just kind of a do-it-all player. So I think 7K with the way, his fantasy point per game average, he's right there. Very good matchup. I would say he's going to be one of my top plays as well. And then Mike Conley, 6,200. I'd rather pay up 800 for Mitchell over Conley, but he's fine. If you're not paying for Mitchell, then you can go with Conley. If you just can't find a salary. But Conley, he hasn't had that great of a year. He's been doing better as of late. He's one of those point guards that's been regarded as like a very underrated player, but his assist numbers have never been that high. He's just a good defender. He's not, the best shooter, but he's just a solid player overall. So for fantasy purposes, that's not like what you want to target. He's a better in life, or a better in real life player than he is for fantasy purposes. And then Favors, he's okay, but I just rather go with someone else because at 5,800 with Zion expected to be back, that just cuts into his playing time. Favors is not a guy that's going to play over 30 minutes a whole lot. Like, he's barely hit that in his game logs. Like, there's only one game that might have been overtime as well or something. So you're just not getting a whole lot of minutes out of Favors. And 5,800, it seems like a fair price tag, but I just don't want to pay up for this when he's got to go up against Rudy Gobert. Joe Ingles, he's priced up now. He's obviously going to be one of the main beneficiaries entering the lineup for Bojan. Royce O'Neal going to slide over to the 4. But both of those guys I don't really want. I think they're already priced up to the point where they're not going to be value plays for an injury. So Ingles, Royce O'Neal just not going to be core plays. Royce is pretty shooting dependent. He's going to rebound and defend, but he needs to score to be able to hit value. Joe Ingles, he facilitates a whole lot more than Royce, but those kind of opportunities aren't going to be needed because of Mike Conley and Donovan Mitchell both being healthy, so they're going to be ball handling a whole lot. Ingles will get his, but it's just not going to be as much as when we target him when one of Conley or Mitchell are going to be out. Now, Jordan Clarkson, 4,200. This is going to be one of my favorite tournament plays because of Bojan missing. Jordan Clarkson, we know he's a scorer. He's not going to do a whole lot else, but this is what the Jazz wanted him for. This is why they traded for him, and he's going to be a core or main bench player for this team. And so when we look at his minutes, he's usually around the mid to high 20s. And now without Bojan, there's going to be a whole lot of shots that are going to be needed to be taken. And in that case, Clarkson usually takes double-digit shot attempts. You can pretty much lock him in for at least 12 shot attempts this game because there's a whole lot of shots that are going to be missing. And he's not the best three-point shooter, but he's capable of taking and making them. And when you put in those 2 rebounds, 2 assists, maybe he gets into a steal, and then all those shot attempts, he's going to score double-digit points. And when he's only 4,200, which is, pretty cheap when you look at the game log, and that's all with Bojan playing. And now you take him out of the equation, it's such a great matchup again against New Orleans. This has everything working in Jordan Clarkson's favor, so I'm not sure if he's going to be very low owned because there are value guys at the guard position like Reggie Jackson, possibly Alex Caruso. So I don't think he's going to be one of the popular plays, but I really like him. Especially if everyone's going to Reggie Jackson, I think you can take Clarkson as a pivot, or you can decide to play both of them. But Clarkson, I think you really need to take a look at him and definitely play him. I don't think he's going to be a core play, but he's very close to it because, this is going to be one of the top value plays of the slate in my opinion. And Josh Hart, he's okay, but I'd rather go with Clarkson because the Pelicans are healthy. Redick, same thing with Hart. Hart's a better defender. He usually will close more than JJ Redick. But Redick, he's a shooter, and we know the Jazz defense is good, but it's not the same as what we're accustomed to. And then, that's pretty much it. So from this game, I think the main targets are going to be Gobert, Mitchell, and then Jordan Clarkson. On to the second game. It's going to be AD for me over LeBron, obviously, if he plays. Currently has an eye injury. It does say there's some concern, but I'm not sure. Obviously, if he's pretty fragile, so if that is the case, he's going to miss, then LeBron's going to be one of the highest owned plays on the slate, but for good reason. So you're going to want to put in LeBron, but for now, if AD plays, I would play him over LeBron. And then with Kawhi and PG, I'm going to go with PG because I'm going to save that 2,000. And it sucks that Paul George doesn't have shooting guard eligibility anymore, but I would rather just save 2,000 because on a short 2 game slate, salary is very important, and I think Paul George is too cheap in this spot, and like both of them, they're gonna get their shot attempts. We know that both of them are very good players. They're all stars, and I I would pick Paul George because of 2,000. I would rather play Anthony Davis over Kawhi. So when they're priced so closely, I'd rather get AD so I can get Paul George exposure and then just make a better, more well-rounded lineup. Montrezl Harrell now being out with Lou Will out, that's going to open up minutes for guys like Reggie Jackson. He's 4,600, so I think that he could possibly enter the starting lineup if Patrick Beverley is going to be out as well. If Beverley is out, then Reggie Jackson probably going to be playing like 30 minutes. And even though he's going to be sharing the court with 2 All-Stars, I think he's still going to be a good value play because you have to understand that he's a point guard. He's going to get you like 4 or 5 assists. He's not the best passing point guard, but shots are going to be there, and it's a good defense. But when you're getting 30 minutes playing point guard, it's always going to be a very good spot, especially when you're playing fantasy, where we're always looking for value. And then with center, Ivica Zubac, he's 4,500, and he might be the starting, or he is the starting center. But with Harrell in, he always just plays usually like 2 or 3 stints. But now with Harrell out, Zubac, he played 28 minutes in the one game that Harrell missed back on December 28th, and that was against the Jazz. So you can view that, I mean, however you may want, but the Jazz, they have Gobert, and the Lakers, they have size. Obviously, AD is a whole lot. I mean, he's on another planet in terms of offensive ability than Gobert, but he's a big body out there. And then you have McGee and Dwight. There's a lot of size that the Clippers they're not going to be able to play small. If they decide to, they can try to stretch the floor and beat them that way, but I mean, Marcus Morris is not going to be able to handle that. JaMychal Green, Patrick Patterson, they're just too small. So they're going to need a size, and Zubats and Joakim Noah, who is at the minimum, or close to minimum, 3,100, they're going to have to probably split those 48 minutes. I think there's definitely going to be a few minutes that probably they play like Marcus Morris at the 5 or something, but he's a guy that's been starting at the 4 for them. So I think this is going to help Morris as well. Last time before the league shut down, Morris was very cold. I don't think he made a single shot against the Lakers, but he was out there for 29 minutes. And we know he's going to be a tough guy. He's going to shoot threes, rebound, play good defense. So if he just makes a few shots, 4,700, I think he's in play for tournaments. And Zubats, he could be very high owned or I think he is going to be high owned because they're going to need him, and Harrell's already been out. And then looking at other guys, Kyle Kuzma, if AD is out, then I would consider him. If he's in, I'd just rather play Zubats and Reggie Jackson. Patrick Beverley, if he's in, I want to take a couple of shots at him because we know he's always going to get up for these big games. And, I mean, whether we like him or not, you just got to respect his intensity, his defensive talent. 4,100, very good play as a value. He's obviously not going to get a whole lot of shots, but rebounding, steals, blocks, he's there. And then KCP, with these value guys, I think I'd put Danny Green as my favorite play because possibly Caruso, but it's going to be Green, like looking at shooting guards and small forwards, it's going to be Green over KCP, over J.R. Smith, Dion Waiters, because he's the starter. He obviously KCP is going to start too, but Danny Green is the 3-and-D guy. He's the best perimeter defender. Obviously, Avery Bradley's out, but there's going to be more minutes opened up. So Danny Green, he's also the cheapest, 3,500, not counting Dion, obviously. But J.R. Smith, he was signed after they signed Dion Waiters, after all these injuries and like opportunities for them to sign, and they didn't sign J.R. until now, until Bradley opted out. So I don't think J.R. Smith's going to be getting a whole lot of minutes. I'd rather go with KCP over him. I'd rather go with Caruso. So I just think if you're looking for a value play from this game, from the Lakers side, it's going to be Danny Green. One, Dion, I'm not too sure. You're just going to have to wait and see how this rotation plays out. But I think because we know Danny Green and KCP are going to be starting, they're going to be the safest two. And they're also not going to be too high on, I would say. And Caruso, he's 3,700, going to be filling in for Rondo. He's probably going to be a little bit popular because of just the name. People like it's fun to roster Alex Caruso, so I think 3,700 is a fair price tag for him. Probably gonna play like 20-ish minutes, maybe close to like 25. So, if it definitely a whole lot of this is gonna depend on Anthony Davis, so I can't really say a whole lot. But if we're going by if AD's gonna be in, it's gonna be AD as the top play, and then I'm gonna go with LeBron obviously second, and then if you're looking for value from this side, it's gonna be Danny Green, and then Alex Caruso. So I like those guys. And Clippers, it's gonna be Paul George 1, probably I'm gonna say Zubac second, unless Beverly's out, then I'll put Reggie Jackson second, and then Kawhi obviously, and then Morris. Make sure you play Marcus over Markieff. He's the one that gets more minutes and more talented. So overall on the slate, I'm going to be plugging in at point guard. I would put in Reggie Jackson. That's obviously subject to change. Shooting guard. I just really like this Jazz side of the ball. And then go with Gobert. And AD is going to be power forward, assuming that he's going to be ready. Small forward, Paul George. And then I really like Jordan Clarkson, but I think these 5 guys are going to be pretty popular. And then I can give you a 6, which is going to be Zubats, because Harrell's already been announced out. So Jackson, Mitchell, George, AD, Gobert, and Zubats. So these are going to be the 6 guys that I really like on this slate. Gobert probably being my favorite play on the entire slate. So good luck on this Thursday slate. Happy to see NBA is finally back, and I'm excited for this day. Hopefully you guys were able to learn something from this video. So again, good luck, and I'll see you in the next video for Friday slate. Bye. Good luck.